You ever get spooked when your project budget jumps by 6 figures from initial budgets to final numbers? 9 times out of 10, it's your MEP costs. Hey, I'm Dave.
And I'm Ken, and we're with the team at Wilson and Company. We'll roll right into it here. I think first it's good to establish, think of MEP costs like the stock market, right? 1 week your investment is doing really well. The next week your investment is a little bit down, maybe not doing so well. And it's not because of things that you did, but it's things affecting it that are outside of your control, right? Forces shifting the numbers that may be, completely unrelated to what you're doing. So first and foremost, I think market volatility and supply chain along those same lines of the stock market, it plays a large role, right? I think a lot of us, what's at top of mind now is tariffs, right? Very few people that are in the market have control over what's going on with the tariffs, right? So that is something that we see regularly currently. 4 years ago it was COVID. Now it's tariffs, and that why or that what changes frequently, but there is typically external factors affecting your price. Market volatility that affects your equipment, mainly your gear for your electrical, your HVAC units for your mechanical, some plumbing fixtures and some other things, but it's mainly your mechanical and electrical numbers that can jump significantly, right? And that changes from one day to the next. So while you may get a certain price and you go to contract a month later, 2 months later, and you see that number jump, it's not necessarily that something changed other than the cost to procure the equipment or the cost to transport the equipment.
Yeah, the second thing is scope gaps from early design to the final design of the project. So we've seen it often where we're asked to give a budget without really understanding the full requirements of MEP layouts, whether the ductwork that's in place now is going to be staying or not. Can we use electrical gear in place, or is that going to have to be relocated, refed, what the conditions are? So you're making a lot of assumptions up front. And by the time the final design gets back with the investigating and doing the site assessments, there could be huge variances between what we had assumed to what the actual site conditions are and what the design requires for the project to come to fruition.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing, subcontractor capacity and competition within that market, right, plays a big role into the pricing that we get and the pricing we're able to put to projects. Oftentimes we're engaged early on for capital conversations, budgetary conversations, and it could be 6 to 8 months down the line until we actually go to contract on those numbers. A lot can happen in that 6 to 8 months, right? We've alluded to a few things, but subcontractor capacity plays a big role, right? You may reach out to a subcontractor who's really hungry for work at a given point in time, and therefore they're going to put their best number to it because they got to put their guys to work. Unfortunately, that may change. Well, fortunately for them, unfortunately for us, that may change over that 6 to 8 month period, 4 month period, 3 month period, 2 month period, right? To where they're not as hungry for that work. Therefore, the pricing reflects it. They may have something else going on, which may require them to provide additional resources to give to the project, right? And that just increases cost. Market competition plays a big role as well. You have a lot more subcontractors that are willing to do work and local to, say, the Orlando area or the Tampa area. But you go to a more rural area out in Polk County or wherever it may be, you have a lot less folks that are willing to do work there. And the folks that are aware of that challenge. Therefore, the pricing reflects it.
Yeah, absolutely. And similar to the scope gaps, design changes and the standards changes along the way, and small changes will have big impact on the pricing. And we've seen it over and over again where we're assuming a certain size HVAC unit that's going to be going in there, and then the project gets designed with a completely different piece of equipment with VAVs, so that wasn't accounted for. So it's all these little things that seemingly small changes really make a big difference in how these numbers will add up. And again, if everybody's done their job right and everybody's on the same page, we do get many instances where our budget numbers thanks to our estimating team, our budget numbers are right on from initial design all the way through. But when you see these big changes in numbers, that's usually because of some small change or something has changed.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think we can go on for a while here because there's a lot of things that affect the pricing and the fluctuations. But a few key takeaways are that early collaboration. Get MEP input as early as possible. Obviously, there may be a few gaps. Assumptions may have to be made earlier on, but when the conversation starts early, we find that it helps mitigate a lot of those changes and a lot of that risk. Lock in your decisions early. There's obviously permitting presents a challenge because the AHJ, the authority having jurisdiction, can make comments and they can force you to change things. Typically speaking, those architects and engineers are very well versed in what needs to go on and what needs to take place. So there can be calculated decisions made on what can be ordered early on versus what can't. And that not only allows you to get the material in, the equipment in on time for you to execute on the project, but it also allows for you to lock in those costs early on. And oftentimes, the earlier you are in the budgeting process, the higher contingency that we would encourage you to carry. Obviously, when we get to contractual pricing, that contingency can decrease or even at times go away. However, the earlier on you are in the process, the higher contingency you need to carry to cover yourself. Thank you for joining us for another one of our expert videos. For some additional content, please check us out at Blueprints to Punch List. And if we can help with anything or provide any value to your processes, give us a call over at Wilson & Company. Thanks.